Hey y'all, welcome. I'm Christine. It means the world to me that you guys are tuning into my little channel here. We're doing some fall thrift flips. So this little board, actually I had thrifted it and used it for something in my home, but we're going to make it over. Now the first one I'm going to show you is my mistake project, but I'm just showing you because I don't mind showing you my mistakes and where I went wrong. I just added too much to it. So I painted one coat of a white chalk paint, and it really doesn't matter which one. White is just used typically behind decoupage paper to make your project stand out. Now I did cut around what I wanted to use, but I did come back with a little paintbrush dipped in some water to soften that edge. Now what that does for you is so you just don't have a cut edge. I think it helps it to bleed a little bit more into your project piece when you use the water method because it makes your edges raw. It makes the fibers come out and it just helps to get into your wood. Especially this piece because this is not a perfectly smooth piece of board. It is kind of rough, so it helps it to blend a little bit better, if that makes sense. So you could try it both ways and then let me know what you find, but I just think bringing out those fibers around the edges to me makes it a little more purposeful and not so much like you just glued a piece of paper down to your project, okay? These are all Roycycled papers that I'm using. They're absolutely beautiful, and I was heartbroken that I messed up these pumpkins because I love this stack of pumpkins. I have one more stack, I believe, in this project left in this piece because when you get the Roycycled papers, you get a large piece at one time. But they're large pumpkins, so it will take a bigger surface than this to put it on. And y'all, I was heartbroken. They're so pretty, aren't they? So I'm just using my fingers to lay this down, and I'm using my DIY liquid patina. And because it's my fingers, those grooves in that board, I just sat there where the groove was and took my finger and pushed the paper into there. I'm not going to cut it. I've seen some people cut it. I'm simply just using my fingers and pushing it down in there. So that's why I'm using my fingers instead of a brayer. And I did not have any bubbles in this piece, so it did fine. If you take your time, you use strips at times, and you don't try to decoupage the whole thing, put your medium down on the whole thing and lay it down, it'll go down a lot better for you. So I'm just using little pieces at the time and laying that down. Now I'm just going to go ahead and lay all the pieces down, and then I decided I want to stencil at top, and it says welcome. So I didn't want either one of these colors on their own. One's maize and one is fired clay, I believe it is. Let me check that. Yes, it's fired clay. It's like a terracotta pottery color. So I mixed them down to get a muted orange because then that pumpkin is more of a muted orange. Okay, if I would have left it like this, it would have been fine. I wasn't perfectly satisfied with the orange color, but it would be fine. So I'm just stippling that on there and circling that around in there and getting that stenciled down, okay? Then when you get through, you just want to go ahead and move your stencil straight up so as not to smudge anything. And I'm working on some edges there because part of my stencil kind of flipped up, so I'm just kind of working at it to get my letters to look correctly. Now, if I would have left this project as is, I would have been fine. This part's even fine. Antiquing wax, great. Age projects a little bit, okay? So I'm taking my little sponge brush and I'm going around the edges. That would have been great. I should have left it. I should have left it alone, Christine. Sometimes you just do too much. You know, I watch videos, I see people, and it looks like they're doing all these steps, and sometimes I wonder, am I making my projects too simple? What do you guys think? But then sometimes I think, simple is beautiful. I mean, there's no need for all that. So here I go. I put the antiquing wax all over. Then it's too dark, so I come back with my white wax. That really didn't do it for me, and that really muted down the words too much. So I don't stop there, y'all. Nope. So then I get a magic marker and go, oh, I want to pull out where it looks more like shiplap. So then I get my magic marker and start doing those crevices. Yeah, if I wanted to do this, if you want to do this before you put your paper on. So now I'm just drawing on my paper, basically. That's not good. So then I said, oh, now my words look too muted. So then I started outlining my words. And I'm not the best at handwriting, so it was a little too thick. Didn't like it. So then I start outlining my pumpkin, thinking maybe that'll help. Y'all, no, it didn't. It was too much. It was too many steps. So, what would have been fine if I would have left it all out? I could have put my white wax on there, left it alone. I could have put the antiquing wax around the edges and the white wax, left it alone. No, I didn't. And once I started going outlining, why not? Just finish it. Why not finish it? Y'all, my handwriting is so sloppy. That is not good. That is not good. So that's where I went wrong. So I scrapped it. Of course I did. I was not satisfied. I'm not going to give this to y'all as a finished product because I'm not satisfied with it. If I'm not satisfied with something, I'm not satisfied showing y'all. So no, that's not going to work. So when it got dry, I took my sander, sanded it down. Here I am, just going to paint over it. So I took 2 coats to paint it real well. Already looks better, doesn't it? Oh, those pumpkins were gorgeous. Anyhow, sometimes that's how it happens. It just happens like that. So I did find some more pumpkins, but they're not stacked, but they are gorgeous. They're more of the blues, the greens. I'm good. I got over it. I can always order some more Roycycled pumpkin paper. I don't know. They might be out of stock now. I think a couple places were out of stock now. So, anyhow, from the get-go, I'm not even going to cut my paper. I'm simply going to use my brush and some water and go around those edges and tear it. Just be careful. Don't get your water too close to your project because it can tear out some of your project. Take my advice on that. Go a little bit from the edge because your water, of course, will spread. So when I'm laying these down, I'm more putting the liquid patina on the back of the papers, then laying my papers down. And I wanted more natural looks, so some of the papers are coming off the edges. I like that. And then I found a beautiful green. This is Waverly Moss that goes with those pumpkins. So pretty. Not going to fuss with this project too much. I'm simply going to stencil that down. And then when all of that is dry, I did seal my project. I didn't show that part to you, but that's not necessary. Always seal your chalk paints. You guys know that. But then this pumpkin little stem came from Walmart. 98 cents, y'all. And I haven't found any this pretty at my local Dollar Tree. So 98 cents. And they have these beautiful pumpkins. There's a green, there's a beige color, and I believe there's an orange. Okay, so pick those up if you find them. Be great for wreaths or anything else for this season. I wanted to use the pumpkin so bad. He was too big. It was just too big. It stuck out too much. So that's okay. I'm going to use him for something else. So I picked out a couple of the leaves and those little stems there. I don't know what those are, but I really, really like them. So then when I decided, can't use pumpkin, that's not going to work. So I took some floral tape and taped those stems up together, and then I hot glued those down. But then I also came back with my stapler because it wasn't staying in a couple places. I stapled it, did a simple little ribbon. Let me know what you think, guys. Projects 2 and 3 are going to be both using books. One I found at the thrift store, one I found Dollar Tree. I think this one's from Dollar Tree. And I liked it because it didn't have a raised spine. Neither did the one that I found at Goodwill. I'm gonna put a mold on it, but sometimes those raised spines, they're hard to cover. Okay, so both of them are going to be using Roycycled Papers again, because that's what this whole video is going to be, is using his beautiful papers for this upcoming fall season. And again, I'm going to use some pumpkins. I like those green ones there. All I did was on both books, I painted them white. 2 coats. Because it did take 2 on both. One had purple in it, one had black on it. And then just remember that you might have to go around the inside and even maybe the first actual page or last page to get those covered up real well so they won't be seen as they're sitting out. So I'm just going to cut around to fit the top. Now, take into account if you've got that spine, this had a little divot in it, so did the other one, so leave you some space for that. And you're just going to make sure that you decoupage into that real well. So after I had decoupaged and or used my liquid patina, use it on top as well. Then I'm going to take my little finger sander and go around the edges, and that's going to give you a nice crisp edge. And you might have to do some touch-up paint after this, because sometimes that'll take off any paint you got around the edges. So just keep your paint out in case you got to do some touch-ups. But that's going to give you a nice clean edge. Even on the spine side there, you can work that and get a nice edge on it. Now I'm using my redesign with Prima Elegant Borders. Yep, that's it, Elegant Borders. And I'm going to use my DOS air dry clay, and I'm just rolling up a good little bit to put in there. I'm using my fingers, and I'm going to come back. I like to use a artist knife, a palette knife that people use painting, and then just push that in there. People use credit cards, old gift cards, whatever, just to push that in there, make sure you got it in the mold and get it flattened on that side, because the top side, what you're looking at, is going to be the side that you glue down, so you want to make sure you got it flat. But you also want to make sure these molds have a lot of detail around the edges. You also want to make sure that you're pushing out that clay all the way to the edge. I use Type Bond Quick and Thick glue and then spread it with my finger, and then what I do is when I put it on my project, I use my fingers to tap it down on there. Now you want to tap it good. You don't want to smush it. I say you don't want to smush it because that can mess up your design, but you want to tap it good so that it's got a good bond with your project, so it's not raised, if that makes sense. So you just want to lay it down into your project, so just tapping it with my finger usually works well. Then I'm going to take some painter's tape, tape it up a couple spaces, and then I'm just going to let it sit for a little bit. I don't want this to totally dry, but I don't want it to move neither. So I'm just going to let it sit up for a little bit. And when it's been a few minutes, probably about 10-15 minutes, your clay's not going to be dry yet, so you're good there. I'm going to come back and paint it that same white that's on my book. Now, I suggest using a nice, soft, fluffy brush to get that paint all in those crevices. You'll see me coming up. I just use a chippy brush on my second project. It's hard to get in there with chippy brush. So then when it's dry, I use some Rub and Buff, just because Rub and Buff is great about pulling out some details. You could always use some antiquing glaze here, antiquing wax. Just use something that you can spread around and you can take off if it's too much. Your best dang waxes would be nice here. And then I'm just going to do it around the spines and the edges as well. And I did do a little something on the pumpkins as well, just to add something. How pretty are those pumpkins? Oh my gosh, that green is gorgeous. So then all I'm going to do after that dries is I'm going to come in with some ribbons. And I had these in my stash. These are from, I think they're all from Hobby Lobby. So I'm just choosing some white and creams here. I had 2 thicker ones, and then I decided, well, the lace wasn't quite as long. You're going to see it coming up here. It wasn't quite as long as the others. So I just used the 2 to make a bow around the top, made a pretty little bow. And then I'm just going to use that lace piece and go underneath, because it wasn't long enough to do a bow, but I'm going to push it off to one side underneath and tie it on the back. And this project's done. It's going to be so pretty to display this through the fall season. Let me know what you think, guys. I appreciate it. Hang in there. All right, are y'all getting ready for fall? I am. It has been such a hot summer, right? I'm getting ready for it. The colors are just beautiful. The leaves start falling. It's just a different, seems like a slower pace of life. Probably not for me, but yeah. Let me know what you think. Are you ready for fall, or are you sad to see the spring go? So this is our other book. So again, I just painted it white. I'm going to use another piece of the Roycycled paper. This is a fall or autumn collection. I forgot the official name of it, but it is so pretty. Look at these birds. I'm not sure what kind of birds these are, but they're gorgeous. They've got that nice rust color in there that just reminds me of autumn. And then those nice, pretty little yellow flowers coming out. So we've got several things that we're going to do differently to this book. So hang in there with me. I did put another mold on there. It's a little bit different mold than the first one. So I let that sit up, and here I am taking I'm using a chippy brush. Use a soft brush, you guys, because I really had to come back and poke that paint in there. Now, I had some silicone molds made up because every time I use my resin molds, every time I use them, I always use too much, mix up too much, so I always have extra on hand because I just go ahead and pour the molds. I'm not going to waste that resin. So these are some of IOD's He Loves Me molds, and I've got a sunflower and a daisy. So I'm taking this color maize, and I'm going around the petals of the sunflower and the middle of the daisy. Now, I didn't have to paint the petals of the daisy because the resin dries white. And I use that amazing casting resin, and it dries white, so there was no need to paint that. So I'm just going around painting these petals and then painting that inside. And then I'm going to glue them on my book with some super glue. You could probably use Titebond Quick and Thick, but I just wanted to use the super glue. Make sure I got a good hold on there. And then I do come in with a little paintbrush and some black chalk paint, and I'm just going to take and do the little seed. Well, it's the seeds for the sunflower, and it's just the inside. I can't think of what you would call that. No, I'm not good at plants, y'all. Anyhow, so I'm just going to take and dab around inside there, especially on that sunflower because it had raised edges for the seeds. So I'm just going to make sure to put some nice, good dots on there. Then again, I'm coming in with my Rub and Buff because, y'all, it's just so pretty, and it's coming autumn, and I just think that gold just mutes everything down so pretty. You know, it's just a choice. You don't have to do that, but I think especially with your molds, I just think you need to add something either if you're using the resin or if you're using the air dry clay. I just think that they need something to make them pop. It's got that 3D effect anyhow, so I just think something to give it some shadows and some depth to it just adds. So I'm just going to be using my rub and buff on my spine of my book there, around the edges of my book, and I do come back on my molds, those pretty flowers, and I do some around the petals of those. Not a whole lot, doesn't need a whole lot, but just a little bit. And then I'm just going to come in with some more ribbons that I have, some beautiful fall colors, and pick out some good golds and some good oranges, that clay color. And then I'm just going to tie that around in a simple knot. A bow's not needed because those flowers are something extra on this book. So you can add all kind of dimension to your books. Really just make these works of art. That's what it is. But it's going to be so pretty sitting up on somebody's mantle or your shelf for a nice, good display. This can take you all the way through to your Thanksgiving season. Let me know what you think there. Really year round, you could use this because it's so pretty. These birds are gorgeous. Let me know what you think, you guys. I appreciate your comments so much. I will reply to them. I love seeing what you guys think. You know, if you don't want to comment on the video, let me know where you're tuning in from. I like to know what states you guys are watching from. That's interesting to me. I know several of you in the past have said something about my accent, and I am clearly Southern. I was raised in the South, born in the South. I live in the South, y'all. We got that humidity going on here in South Carolina. But I'd love to know where you guys are from. Let me know what you think. I appreciate you guys so much. Keep watching. We have a real quick little flip coming up here for our last project, but you're not going to want to miss it because, again, these Roycycled papers are so pretty, so you're not going to want to miss out. Stay tuned in. Here we are at the end. Thank you so much for sticking in there with me. And this one's going to be quick and easy, but also cute. Look at this little thing I picked up from, this wasn't the thrift store, but you can find these. I've seen these similar. I actually got it from Hobby Lobby on like 90% clearance, so I couldn't pass it up. A little paddle here, a little cutting board would be gorgeous as well. Did 2 coats of chalk paint only on the top side. Had a wood look around the edges. I'm just going to leave that, so only on the top side. Y'all, I didn't cut my finger off, I promise you. But look, I'm going to show y'all some of the stuff I come up with. This little handle is, this little twine is stapled because it goes through the hole and it's stapled at the back. I'm trying to use my scissors. Y'all, I did come back with a screwdriver and get that off. So don't worry, my finger survived it. I survived it. So I wanted to pull it out because I want my piece to go all the way to the top. I wanted this little owl. Y'all, how much did I luck up to get that little seal up at the top? Perfect. This, I'm using just Mod Podge on this. Again, you can use liquid patina or whatever you use for your decoupage medium. This little Mod Podge, I'm pretty sure I picked this up from Dollar Tree. Y'all look at that seal. I can't get over that. That is so daggone cute. So I'm just using the same method to put this down. You're going to do the bottom just to get your paper adhered, and then you're going to also put the Mod Podge on top because that's going to be your sealant for your paper. I did put the little handle back through there and used my stapler to staple it onto the back. If you didn't have a stapler, you could certainly hot glue it. And then I'm just using some of this Just yarn in this beautiful golden color from Dollar Tree. And I'm just putting a dab of hot glue on the back, and I wrapped it about 5 or 6 times. And then I had some beautiful wood buttons. This is the first time I'm using them for crafts. I think I ordered them off of Temu, so I got them a little for nothing. But when I went through, I found one that had that beautiful yellow in it, had some blues in it. And I am simply just going to hot glue that off to the side. Project's finished because you don't always need to fuss a lot. But how beautiful is that owl? Thank you guys. I appreciate you so much. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would love for you to be a member. I love crafting and I love showing you guys. Plus, I'm doing stuff for my home and my booth, so I just want to share that with you guys. Let me know what you think. I love to read your comments. I appreciate it. Have a blessed week, y'all.